Hello everyone. So in the last video, we had completed the Anekantvad section, and in this video, we will be proceeding with the next section, that is Syadvad. Now we already looked into Syadvad a little bit when we were talking about Anekantvad, because in substance, these both Syadvad and Anekantvad are intricately linked and are one theory only. So we had discussed that Jaina metaphysics is realistic and relativistic pluralism, and how the metaphysical side is Anikantvad and the epistemological side of this is Syadvad. Okay, so let's now see what is given in this section. Syadvad, which is also called Saptbangine, is the theory of relativity of knowledge. So they are equating Syadvad and Saptbangine. They are intricately linked. So all these theories, Anekantvad, Syadvad, and Saptbangine, are linked to each other. Now, Syadvad is translated as theory of relativity of knowledge, whereas Saptbangine is translated as dialectic of the seven steps or theory of sevenfold judgment. Okay, all right. Now, the word Syat literally means probable, perhaps, or maybe, and Syadvad is sometimes translated as the theory of probability or the doctrine of maybe. But it is not in the literal sense of probability that the word Syat is used here. Probability suggests skepticism, and Jainism is not skepticism. Okay, so what they are saying here is that the literal meaning of Syat is probable, and hence Syadvad by some of the scholars is meant to be as theory of probability or theory of maybe. Now they are saying that treating Syadvad as probability will lead to skepticism. We have to understand what skepticism is. Skepticism, you will find it discussed in depth in Western philosophy, especially, but in Indian philosophy also, skepticism is discussed about a bit. So, skepticism means that our knowledge may be true, but whatever knowledge we have is only probable and hence it can be doubted. Right? So, this is skepticism. It has some practical issues associated with it. See, a little bit of skepticism is always good. We should, especially in today's age and day, we should not take anything as a face value. Let's say you get a WhatsApp forward and you believe that whatever is being said in there as knowledge, then you might act on that knowledge, and that knowledge being false, your actions might lead to bad consequences. So, being skeptic is good. But to what extent? Can we be fully skeptical? No, we cannot be fully skeptical. We have seen that we have to take some presuppositions into account to function in this world. If you will start doubting even the very first principles, if you will start doubting everything, then no action will be possible. And that is why a lot of philosophers, a lot of religions are against skepticism, because it encourages doubting everything, which can lead to insecurity and inaction. Right? So this is the problems and issues related to skepticism. So Jainism also has been labeled by some as a skeptic theory, but the author here says that Jainism is not skepticism. Syad, though literally means probable, Syadvad is not theory of probability. Okay, let's move forward then. Sometimes the word Syad is translated as somehow, but this too smacks of agnosticism, and Jainism again is not agnosticism. So, what is agnosticism? Agnosticism is that something is unknown. You have seen that thing, but why that thing is happening, you cannot know it. It is unknowable. That is what skepticism is. Oh, sorry, agnosticism is. So again, agnosticism also introduces a bit of insecurity and a bit of inaction, even though that inaction might not be as s- extreme like skepticism introduces, but still it does so, and that is why a lot of philosophers and especially religions are also against agnosticism. Okay, so the author says that even Jainism is not agnosticism also because the word Syat does not mean somehow. The word Syat is used here in the sense of the relative, and the correct translation of Syadvad is the theory of relativity of knowledge. Right? So this is the sense in which Syat is used, and relativity of knowledge is the translation of Syadvad. That is what the author is saying. Reality has infinite aspects, which are all relative, and we can know only some of these aspects. So we have seen this, the multi-sidedness of reality, that it has infinite sides. We have seen this in the last video. All our judgments, therefore, are necessarily relative, conditional, and limited. Syad, or relatively speaking, are viewed from a particular viewpoint, which is necessarily related to other viewpoints, must precede all our judgments. Right? So this is their metaphysical doctrine, and from which they say that all our knowledge is relative. And hence they also say that whenever we say anything, we need to make sure that we need to make sure that whatever we are saying is meant by others as relative. And that's why any sentence which we say, we should qualify it or we should precede it by using the word syat to show that the thing we are saying is true from our perspective, but it is not absolutely true, right? Absolute affirmation and absolute negation both are wrong. All judgments are conditional. This is not a self contradictory position because the very nature of reality is indeterminate and infinitely complex, and because affirmation and negation both are not made from the same standpoint. Again, we have seen all this that reality has many sides. Someone can be saying one thing from one side, someone can be saying another thing from other side, and both of these cannot absolutely affirm about their position, and neither can one person absolutely negate other person's position, right? And they have given metaphysical basis to this epistemological theory. The difficulty of predication is solved by maintaining that the subject and predicate are identical from the point of view of substance and different from the point of view of modes. Okay, let's understand this. What is predication? Right, so predication is predicating a quality etc. to an object. So, for example, if we say the ball is red, so we are predicating a quality red to the ball. This is what is known as predication. But because of such epistemology of Jainas, which say that everything is relative, people might say that how can we say that ball is red? This depends on a lot of conditions. So we how can we predicate red to ball? To this, Jainas will say that ball is red from POV of substance. So we saw substance, right? In the last lecture, what substance is. Substance is something which persists, which is at the base, which is unchanging, which is real, right? So they solve this problem of predication by saying that from the POV of substance, a ball is red, but from the POV of modes, for example, say some condition is there that the lighting is of green color. In that case, you will not see the ball as red. You might see it as dark brown, right? So they solve this problem by saying that ball is red from POV of substance, but it is not from POV of modes. Now this thing is a bit contradictory, as you will be seeing in the next section. Why is it contradictory? Because they are giving priority to one point of view. They are giving priority to the point of view of substance. Hence, they tend towards absolutism. But their theory says that everything is relative. So you see, there is a bit of contradiction. This is the contradiction which we will be discussing in detail in the next section. Okay? Yeah, so that was problem of predication. Hence, categorical or absolute predication is ruled out as erroneous. All judgments are double-edged. Affirmation presupposes negation as much negation presupposes affirmation. Right? So affirming to a viewpoint presupposes that that viewpoint is negated from some other perspective. Everything is relative. Okay, so neither affirmation nor negation can be made absolutely. The infinitely complex reality admits of all opposite predicates from different standpoints. Here again, the degree of complexity of reality is emphasized, that it is infinitely complex. So any object can take all opposite predicates from different standpoints. Okay, so a ball is red. We are saying that it is from the substance point of view that ball is red, but it can take all opposite predicates to red, like it is green, it is black, it is yellow, it is white, and they say that it can take all these different predicates from different standpoints. But still, they say that priority is given to the point of view of substance, which is the ball is red. It is real as well as unreal. It is universal as well as particular. It is permanent as well as momentary. It is one as well as many. Viewed from the point of view of substance, it is real, universal, permanent, and one. Viewed from the point of modes, it is unreal, particular, momentary, and many. Okay, so again, this all point of view of them is based on Brahmanical and Upanishad teaching. How? Let's see. So in Advait Vedanta, we discussed about Advait Vedanta. We saw that there is Brahm, which is pure consciousness, and it is the only reality. And everything, including the world, the individual jeeves, and everything else is just an illusion. So Advait Vedanta say that there are modes. Modes will be these jeev and other objects in the world, but they are illusion. Substance, that is Brahman, is the only reality. Early Buddhism, which we'll be learning in the next chapter, says that these modes, jeeves, object, and all these kind of particulars are real, and substance is illusion. They say that substance is an illusion. It is only a concept in our head. So you see that Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta have such starkly different views, totally opposite views. Whereas Jainas will say that both point of views are real. The modes are real, the substance is also real, but it depends on our POV. When we are looking at from the POV of substance, the thing is real, universal, permanent, and one. Whereas when we look at from the point of view of modes, it is unreal, particular, momentary, and many. Okay. Then the Jainas are fond of quoting the old story of six blind men and the elephant. We saw this story in the last video, so I will not be repeating it here. The conclusion from this metaphor that they make out is that he who can see the whole elephant can easily know that each blind man feels only a part of the elephant, which he mistakes to be the whole animal. Almost all philosophical, ideological, and religious differences and disputes are mainly due to mistaking a partial truth for the whole truth. Our judgments represent different aspects of the many-sided reality and claim only partial truth. This view makes Jainism Catholic. Catholic means tolerant, right? Broad-minded and tolerant. It teaches respect for other point of views. Okay, so at this point, you understand that what they mean. They want to say that all point of views have reality from their perspective. Now you might be thinking that what about error? How will we know that someone or some person is saying wrong? Let's say there are two different perspectives, but it might be possible that one of the perspective is wrong. Is there any scope for this in Jainas epistemology? So you will read this later in their theory of error. This we will be reading in the Mimamsa chapter, right? So their theory of error is known as Sad Asathyati. I'm just telling you the name right now. So the thing is, they will say that there is no positive error. There is no thing as error, but only partial knowledge, right? So they will say that even if someone is saying, they will say that anything that a person says cannot be wrong. It is always partially true, right? This is their viewpoint, and hence there is no space for error in Jaina's epistemology. We will be seeing this theory of error later. I just introduced you to this because a lot of you might have this question regarding what viewpoint they consider as wrong. And actually, this leads them to a lot of problems. We will see in the next section that why this is a bit contradictory. We can know an object in three ways through Durniti, Nyay, and Pramana. So they distinguish between three types of knowing: Durniti, Nyay, and Pramana. Mistaking a partial truth for the whole and the absolute truth is called Durniti or bad judgment. So if you say something like Ram is father of Shyam and you consider it as an absolute truth, then they say that it will be a bad judgment. Okay, so for example, if you say that Ram is the father of Shyam, but it is a conditional statement according to them. What about 50 years back? This wouldn't have been true 50 years back. Let's say both are Ram is 50 years only, and hence this statement will not be true 50 years back. Hence there are a lot of conditions with respect to space, time, etc., which this statement needs to be qualified with, and hence this statement is not absolutely true. If you will take it as absolutely true, then it will be a durniti or bad judgment. A mere settlement of a relative truth without calling it either absolute or relative is called nay or judgment. Then, if you say that Ram is the father of Shyam, but you do not say that it is either absolute or relative, then it is called a nay or a judgment. It is right. Then the third is a statement of a partial truth, knowing that it is only partial, relative, and conditional, and has possibility of being differently interpreted from different point of views, is called praman or valid judgment. Okay, so how will you show the other person that you are saying thing and you are meaning it to be relative? You show that by qualifying the statement with the word syat. So you will say syat Ram is the father of Shyam. By this you will clarify that this statement is only relatively true and it is only one point of view. Such kind of judgments are called praman or valid judgment. Every nay, in order to become praman, must be qualified by syat. Syat is said to be the symbol of truth. It is relative and successive knowledge. It removes all contradictions among different point of views To reject Syat is to embrace unwarranted absolutism, which is directly contradicted by experience. Okay, so look at this line. They say that just putting Syat in front of a statement removes all contradiction amongst different point of views. This will be shown to be contradictory in the next section. Okay, we will see why it is contradictory then only. Let's proceed for now. Everything everything exists from the point of view of its substance, space, time, and form, and it does not exist from the point of view of other substance, space, time, and form. So, for example, I gave you this example that Ram is the father of Shyam, but this is true only from its time, right? Told you that before 50 years, this statement would not have been true. So it exists or is true only from the point of view of its own substance, similarly space, time, and form. When we say this table exists, we cannot say that this table exists absolutely and unconditionally. Our knowledge of the table is necessarily relative. The table has got innumerable characteristics, out of which we can know only some. The table exists in itself as an absolutely real and infinitely complex reality. Only our knowledge is relative. Okay, so this line. They say that the table is there. The reality is there. The reality is there and it is absolutely real and infinitely complex. The table is there, right? But we cannot absolutely say that it exists. The exists here is related to our knowledge. And the exist here is related to reality. Okay, so you might be confused that here they are saying that this table exists cannot be said absolutely and unconditionally, and here they are saying the table exists in itself as an absolutely real and infinitely complex reality. So the meaning of exist in both these statements differs a bit. As a reality, table exists, but our knowledge is relative, right? When we say or make a judgment, see this is given in quotes. So here we are making a judgment. This is regarding to our knowledge. When we are talking about knowledge, then we cannot say such a statement. But in reality, they consider that table is out there in the world as infinitely complex. How it is in reality, what this infinite complexity is, all that we cannot know. We are very limited. Okay, for us, the table must exist in its own matter as made of wood, in its own form as having a particular shape, length, breadth, and height, at a particular space and at a particular time. See this for us. Okay, and based on this, we make our judgments of knowledge. It does not exist in other matter, other form, and at other space and time. So a table is both existent and non-existent. Now here, existent and non-existence are from the point of view of knowledge. Okay, so it from the point of view of knowledge, a table can exist and non-exist, but from the point of view of metaphysics or reality, a table exists. I hope you are getting the difference of these two exist. It is confusing, I know. So a table is both existent and non-existent viewed from different standpoints, and there is no contradiction in it. The Jaina logic distinguishes seven forms of judgments. Each judgment being relative is preceded by the word Syad. This is Syadvad or Sapt Bhangin. Okay, so in our modern logic, we know that there are two kinds of judgment. A proposition can either be true or it can be false, right? Now, based on Jainas' metaphysics and their epistemology, they come up with their own logic. And this logic part is what is known as Saptabhangina. And they say that there are seven forms of judgment, seven different forms of judgment. Now, what they are, the first is Syad Asti, or relatively a thing is real. you see that every judgment is preceded by Syad, and Syad is translated as relatively. So, relatively will be there before each of the judgment. Syad asti means that relatively a thing is real, or you can also say that relatively a thing is true. Let's say, for example, that Ram is father of Shyam. This is the statement. Now, this is Syad asti. This is relatively it is true when seen from the viewpoint of today's time, and when we say that Ram and Shyam who live in a particular place in a particular house, right? So, with respect to all those conditions, this statement is true or real. Syad nasti, or relatively a thing is unreal. Again, let's come to this statement again. Ram is father of Shyam. Now, with respect to 50 years back, and Ram and Shyam who are living in a particular house at a particular address, this statement is false also. Okay, so when these set of conditions are given, the same statement becomes false. So relatively this statement is true, and relatively this statement is false. The third is Syad asti nasti, which means that relatively a thing is both real and unreal. Now, if you take both the parts, first and second part successively, okay, so in the first part, you are saying that Ram is father of Shyam in a particular set of conditions, and in those set of conditions it is true. In the next, we are taking a particular set of conditions in which it is false, right? So if we take both these conditions successively, we can say that a thing is both real and unreal. Fourth is Syad Avyaktam. Relatively, a thing is indescribable. Okay, so when will be a thing indescribable? So Ram is a father of Shyam. This is true from some point of views. This is not true from other point of views. But if we say what Ram is as a whole, or Ram's relation to Shyam is as a whole, you cannot. This is not describable. This is indescribable because he is also father. He is not also father. And if you take it at the same point, if you want to come up with one word, then you cannot come up with it. In the third part, Syad Asti Nasti, you had successively told it, right? You had said that from this point of view, his father, it is true. From this point of view, he is not father, it is not true. But if you have to tell one word about Ram's relation with Sham, you cannot come up with it. And hence, it is indescribable. Okay, so these are the four basic kind of judgments. Now, the next three judgments are kind of redundant. And in the criticism also, you will see that people will criticize Jainas for this. Even I don't know why they have taken these judgments to be separate. So the fifth judgment is Syad Asti Avyaktam. Relatively, a thing is real and it is indescribable. Okay, so they will say that from one point of view it is real and from other point of view it is undescribable. But this is nothing but combination of the first part and the fourth part. So I don't know why they have taken this again. In the sixth, it is Syad Nasti Avyaktam. So they are combining the second and the fourth in this one. And in the seventh, it is Syad Asti Nasti Avyaktam. So they are combining the third and the fourth. From the point of view of one's own substance, everything is, while from the point of view of one's from other substance, everything is not. As we have just remarked, that we can know a thing in relation to its own matter, form, space, and time as a positive reality, while in relation to others' matter, form, space, and time, it becomes a negative entity. When we affirm the two different standpoints successively, we get the third judgment. A thing is both real and unreal. I have talked about this, right? If we affirm or deny both existence and non existence simultaneously to anything, that is, if we assert or negate the two different aspects of being and non being together, the thing baffles all description. This is the avyaktam part. It becomes indescribable. That is either both real and unreal simultaneously, or neither real nor unreal. This is the fourth judgment. The remaining three are the combinations of the fourth with the first, second, and the third, respectively. I think I have already explained these things. Okay, so we are done with this subsection. In the next section, we will see criticisms of Syadvad. And this is the part from which most of the PYQs are asked. So it is very important. Okay, so thanks. We'll see you in the next video.